At the beginning of the 20th century, archaeologists have made a disturbing discovery in Mount Kujudek, which is a fascinating hero epic. This epitaph is engraved on 12 earthen plates, which are preserved in the Azores King's Ezinabo Library, written in Akko. Aliens in the epic Gilgamesh. It was later discovered that the second book belonged to the king Hammurabi, 1848 to 1806 BC, Kingdom of Kublai. This is a Gilgamesh epic with great historical and literary value. All scholars acknowledge that its original Gilgamesh epics are derived from the Sumerians. The Sumerians are a well-to-do people. So far we have not known the origin of this nation, only know that they have left 15 astounding numbers today. The knowledge of astrology learn extremely advanced. In the first version of the Gilgamesh epic, an anthem is created by the goddess Eru. Enjita's body is full of long hair. He ate grass, and drank in the sunken place like a cow, and he liked to play in the hot boiling water. The king of Ruk heard that it was an ugly creature and offered him a beautiful daughter, so that she could lead the herd. Enjita was captured by the king, and lived with a beautiful half-human half-dead woman, 6 days and 6 nights. On the second note, the hero Gilgamesh always wins the repair of the wall rock. This god lived in a large palace. Inside there is a food warehouse. On the wall are guards standing guard, patrol guard. Gilgamesh is the blood mixed with humans, 1/3 is the god. The pilgrims to Ruk City were shaking as they looked up at him, because they had never seen such a large and handsome man. This narrative once again addresses the problem of mating between humans and gods. The third narrative is that, from a distance away from a whirlwind of dust to do the earthquake, sand dust heaven. Sun gods appear. He uses a large claw to encounter Enjita. Here depicts the sun god as a heavy drill plugged into the Enjita, weighing heavily as a mortar. People today are surprised and hard to explain. Did primitive people know that, under a certain acceleration, the human body can work as a drill? Nowadays, we know the acceleration of gravity. The cosmic pilots take off with a gravitational acceleration down the seat, which has been carefully calculated. But how can the primitive man understand the knowledge? The 6th verse tells that Gilgamesh and Enjita went to the goddess's place together. Standing very far from them, they saw the Tower of Glory, so splendidly magnificent. It is the home of the goddess Aninis. 2 knights carefully took the name and shot the bodyguard, but were shot back. The bodyguard was not scratched. 2 knights rushed to the palace, then suddenly heard a terrible roar, "Come back! Who went to the holy mountain where the gods, if anyone just see the face God will take death." The Bible also reads, "He cannot see my face, he who looks at me will not be able to live." The 7th verse describes the first appearance of the earth from the universe. Enjita was struck by the hooves of a large falcon flying in the air. In the book as follows. He said to me, "Look at the earth and see what the earth looks like. Look at what the sea looks like. The ground is like a high mountain, its face is like a lake. 1 more hour, ask me, look down the ground, look at the earth, what is the ground? Look at the sea, what the sea look like. The ground now is like a garden, the sea is like a water tank in the garden." Then fly another 4 hours to ask, you look down on the ground to see what the ground is like. You look back to see what the sea look like. The ground is like porridge thin, the sea like pots of water. Certainly there must be a creature who has seen the earth from the sky. It also says that a door speaks like a human, which makes people think of the radio. In the 8th edition, Enjita had seen the earth from above that died of a very strange disease. Gilgamesh asked whether Enjita had been poisoned by a poisonous beast in the sky that could cause an untreatable illness in humans. The 9th story tells the story of Gilgamesh deeply mourned his friend Enjita decided to dive to find a god, because he always thought of dying the disease like Enjita. Gilgamesh went to the foot of 2 mountains against the sky, squeezed across the 2 mountains is the Sun Gate. In front of the Sun Gate, he met 2 giants. Having to negotiate for a day, Gilgamesh can enter. Fortunately for him, 2/3 were gods, so Gilgamesh found a flower garden next to a large beach. When Gilgamesh was on the way, the god warned him twice, "Gilgamesh, Where are you going? You cannot find the life you want. When the God created people, it was arranged before death, and life is the God himself. Gilgamesh did not listen to the advice, determined to move forward, no matter how dangerous. He must definitely reach the place of unexplained. But unexplained was on a faraway shore, where there was no way, except for the ship of the sun. There was no other ship that could fly across the ocean. Gilgamesh overcame the danger, relied on his intelligence to cross the sea. Later, the 10th described him coming to unexplained, the human father whose waist was not coarser than his waist, nor the shoulders of a large, but physically shaped man. unexplained said that the two looked very much like their father. unexplained then tells Gilgamesh of what Gilgamesh has been through, and strange that he uses the first person pronoun to say it. Surprisingly, unexplained has described the devastation of Hong too. He said that the god had warned him of the flood, so that he could build a boat to save his children, women, his relatives, and the craftsmen of the occupations. He described many storms, the tide of water rising high and the darkness with the people he could not save. To this day, the scene is still lively and exotic. This story is very similar to the story of Noah in the Bible. We hear the story of the ravens and the dove, the story after the boat pulls off a mountain. Based on the description above, we can put a hypothetical historical ambiguity of man as follows: since in very ancient times, a spacecraft is not clear where to discover the existence of our planet. They quickly realized that the Earth was well suited for the development of human intelligence. Of course, humanity on Earth was not ours at the time. Aliens have fertilized some of the women on Earth, just as the narratives in the myths. They wait for these women to sleep and leave. Thousands of years later, other aliens came to Earth. They found the product is their descendants left. They continued to mate many times until they created a kind of intellectual creature so that they could pass on to the creature the survival skills and social rules of life. Humans at the time were barbaric savages. They were likely to degenerate and once again mate with predators. Aliens have seen this danger, so they have destroyed their unsuccessful product, or brought it to another land. Thus, the primitive society, the most primordial skill has begun to appear, the paintings on the cliffs and caves, pottery, and the initial knowledge of housing, each first one appears gradually. These primitives worship the guests from heaven. Because these guests come from a place where humans are unaware, and later they leave. In the minds of men, they are divine, they are gods.